Creative Parenting with Nina Meehan is brought to you by Bay Area Children's Theater.
Malynda Hale is a singer, songwriter, actress, entrepreneur, and activist. She's utilized her voice and social media presence as a creative influencer to affect change within social justice, female empowerment, LGBTQ rights, veganism, and the Black Lives Matter movement. She currently hosts her own podcast called #We Need to Talk. Additionally, she serves as a worship leader at Harmony Toluca Lake Church. Malynda has created the Black Voices Heard Project, an ongoing video and photo series that seeks to amplify the experiences of Black Americans. She currently resides in Los Angeles with her husband, daughter, and dog. I loved talking to Malynda. Oh man, she had such beautiful and soul-searching ways of discussing how creative powers can be used to truly change the world in a positive way. And I loved hearing her share about what it felt like to truly be a pandemic mom and the gifts of that, as well as the struggles. I hope you enjoy Malynda as much as I do. I know I'm listening to her podcast. She's terrific. Enjoy. Malynda, I am so delighted to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
You are this insane multidisciplinary artist. I mean, you sing, you act, you podcast, you write. You're just you're a storyteller. You do so many things. Can you tell us a little bit about how you began your journey as a creative human being into music, into acting, all of those pieces?
Of course. I mean, I joke I popped out singing, right? Because music was always a big part of my life. And my dad was a musician and my grandma on my mom's side was a singer. So music was always in our household and it was never not playing, during playtime or dinner, anything. We wake up to music. Music was a huge part of my life. So I was always exposed to it and always loved it. But I love telling this story because, may she rest in peace. When I was 5, I saw Whitney Houston sing the national anthem for the Super Bowl. And moment, really, I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. And so from then on, honestly, I just had been singing and doing acting since I was a little girl. I even remember going to LA when I was 8 or 9 with my dad, taking me to commercial acting classes and auditions and things like that. And then in school, I did a lot of musical theater. I was singing in church. And then after high school, I knew I wanted to major in music. So I majored in music, minored in musical theater. And then once I graduated, I just kind of hit the ground running to make it a full-time career. But being a part of the arts has always been a huge part of my life. And I'm really, really grateful for being exposed to it because I don't know if I didn't have those opportunities growing up, where I would have landed, honestly, because it really did change my life.
Well, as a person who runs a company that is dedicated to giving kids access to the arts, that warms my heart a lot because I think it is so important to, as you say, for so many kids, finding the arts is like finding home. I mean, I know that was my story as well.
Sure.
It was, school was not easy and things were confusing. And then I got on stage one day and was like, oh, well, this I can do.
Right. It's finding your people.
So I do finding exactly. Okay. So I have to ask you, what is, you did musical theater as a kid. Mm-hmm. What are the shows that still stand out to you?
Oh, it's great. I did Once on This Island 3 times.
Nice.
I was tabooed every single time, so that's okay. But yeah, I did it. I did several times, and I love that show so much. I also did Once Upon a Mattress. Do you know that show? Yeah, I was the minstrel.
So yes.
I was very good at storytelling. And then I did Bye Birdie, and I played Rose. And then in college, I did Scarlet Pimpernel. Did Once on This Island again. I did. Oh gosh, now I'm blanking. I did quite a few. Now I'm I've done Dreamgirls before. There's a bunch of stuff. I did some original musicals as well, but those are the ones that stand out to me currently. Yeah.
Amazing. So your Once on This Island was my Bye Birdie. I did Bye Birdie 3 times between the ages of, I think, 14 and 22.
Oh my gosh.
The same role 3 times. It's good times.
Did you change up how you did it each time?
I mean, I think, it was that role of like that crazy, like over the top fangirl. So I
Yes.
think I just got better and better at screaming. Is really like, as my voice teachers were like, no, honey, you can't scream from here. You have to
Yeah.
scream from the mask.
Yep. Oh, that's fun.
Good stuff. Okay, so you describe yourself, and I love this phrase, as a creative influencer. I love that term so much because as a person who, creativity is so much a part of what I hope to bring to the world, and finding other people who are speaking creative. But you're not just talking about creativity for the sake of your own self. You're talking about it as it affects social change, as it affects other people. Can you talk to us a little bit about what do you see as the intersection between creativity and social change, and how being a creative influencer has affected your views on creativity and getting the word out to the rest of the world?
Yeah. Thank you first and foremost, because it took a while to kind of land on that label, as we're always told, what do you describe yourself as? And I was just like, I do all these things. And I'm like, okay, this actually makes the most sense for me. But I think when it comes to the arts and creativity, I don't think people realize how much power the arts have, right? It can change people's lives, but also it can make you think differently. And so when I've been in my creativity or my innovation when it comes to art, I've been doing the intersection with social change. I realized that one, music, for example, is a universal language. Everybody loves music. You can find music
Yes.
to talk about any emotion that you're going through. You can have your happy playlist, or you can have your sad, I'm going to eat a pint of ice cream playlist, right? There's always music to go with any emotion. So I'm like, there needs to be more music to spark conversations about social justice and social change, because that's something that is very, very important to me. So when I started kind of shifting the trajectory of the type of music that I wrote and performed, it really focused on those issues, because it got people to listen to it and think in a different way. And even when you come into, acting, you go into plays, you go into TV and film, they have such a opportunity to bring to light and put a spotlight on different issues that need to be talked about, but in a way that people will consume. And I think art and creativity is just the best way to do that. So I really love intersecting the two.
That is so powerful what you're talking about. And I am thinking about and reflecting on my musical theater writing class that I took, years and years ago, but I use all the time because we're creating new work all the time at Bay Area Children's Theater, where we write a lot of musicals for young people. And this idea that musicals exist, and a character in a musical starts to sing because words are no longer enough to express
Mm,
the emotions that they're experiencing.
I love that.
And then I think about like kids and our role as parents, and you have an 18-month-old, so you're
Hmm.
like in it with the
Yeah.
emotions right now. I mean, I'm
Oh
guessing
yeah.
if you
Oh, your guess is correct.
but like I'm just thinking, I have 3 kids. Mine are 13, 10, and 5, but like
Hmm.
when they were in that like just becoming toddler moment, like I remember reflecting on how much freedom they have with the noises they make. Like, we wouldn't call it singing,
Hmm.
so to speak, right? But like, if they're having an emotional experience, like they don't trap it inside
Yeah.
like we often do, right? Like
Yeah.
they like let it out. And I don't know.
100%.
I'm wondering, like, as an adult, like,
It's
can
not socially
singing
acceptable.
help us with that? Right, but singing is socially
Right.
acceptable.
Yes.
So, but now you are also a worship leader, because you are clearly an insanely beautifully busy woman, and I just like really love and admire all the things you
Oh,
do,
thank
and
you.
I also really relate to it as a person who does a lot of things.
Yeah.
So you're a worship leader,
Hmm.
and you also talk about social justice with a Christian lens.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about those connecting points? So how did you get to that place where your storytelling from your creative world and your being a worship leader, how did all of these things end up connecting?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I mean, just a little a little history. I grew up in the church, but I grew up in a very like liberal progressive church. So my experience was always one that was pretty simple in terms of like what my faith was and what I believed. It's just like Jesus wants you to love God and love each other. Like that's like at base what I was always taught. And to me, that seems like a pretty simple way to live. Yes, people get on your nerves. You want to cuss some people out sometimes, but in general, you try to love people, right? So I was really exposed to different ways of thinking in the more conservative Christian mindset when I went to college. And that is kind of when my voice started becoming a little louder about the things that I felt and believed in. Then, when I became the worship leader at this church, it's a very wonderful church in Los Angeles called Harmony Tulip Lake, very progressive church. I knew that people, just from following me on social media, would always have these questions about social justice or what they can do or how they can help. And I decided to do two things at my church. One, I started a panel, excuse me, called "We Need to Talk," which is what eventually turned into my podcast. But I also started a twice a month conversation called "Courageous Conversations" about how to be a Christian in social justice. Because really, if you get into what Jesus did, he was a social justice warrior. He was always about caring for people, being there for people, putting others before him, right? So having those conversations with people that want to help and want to understand, but they don't really know where to start has been really beautiful and really productive. And I think them hearing my experience was just kind of where the storytelling comes in, but also from a faith based mindset has been really cathartic and also healing, for myself and for them as well. So it's something that I'm really, really passionate about. And it's been rewarding. It's been very rewarding.
I'm picking up on something you just said, which I think is such a beautiful way of thinking about it, which is people who know they want to help but don't know how to start.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm reflecting on how often that we that don't know how to start piece becomes a blocker. I think
Mm,
it's a blocker in the world of social justice. I think it's a blocker for creativity. I think it's a blocker for even just trying new things or trying on new ideas.
yeah.
So, what does that look like? Have you had experiences where people have come to you and said, I don't know where to start, and been able to get through that block?
Yeah. I One of the things that I always tell people, like for example, there's kind of like this pressure, like to post on social media, right? Like if to say something if something happens, right? So I always tell people when they ask me, they're like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to start. I say that. That's where you start by saying, I don't know what to say, I don't know where to start, but I want to, because one, most times you'll be met with a lot of grace and a lot of understanding, and also a lot of people that feel the same way. And so when you have a lot of people that are like, yes, I feel that way. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Then you can start having conversations. Well, what if we do this? What if we say this? What if we do this? Well, let's talk to this person. Maybe they can point us in the right direction. But if you say nothing, to me, that's worse. I'd rather you admit that you have no idea what to do than to just stay silent or just post about, your day at the beach. When we have the country is a mess or there's a bunch happening. So, but one thing I also have told people is go to the voices that you see that are making social change and just listen. You can start by listening. That's a huge thing. Everybody does kind of want to just jump in there and have their voice be heard, but you got to listen first and see where you're needed. So I think if people start there, then they will find that the path is a lot easier to getting involved and helping with wanting to make a change. But if you can't admit that you don't know where to start, or and you stay silent, or you don't even go to the voices that do know what they're doing, then you're not really going to know what to do at all.
So, I'm hearing be willing to be vulnerable
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
say, I don't know,
Yeah.
but I want to know, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Taking that time to listen and give focus to others and allowing that to see where you are needed instead of
Hmm.
imposing, this is where I think I'm needed. So
Yes,
I'm just going to
exactly.
jump in right there.
Right.
That's
Right.
such a perfect synopsis of a 3-step process to
Yeah.
actually being able to get past that wall. And so now I'm going to shift a little bit to your role as a mom, because
Yeah.
I actually think that what you just talked about is really relevant to parenting in so many ways. I mean, just like, let's start with being willing to say, I don't know what I'm doing
Oh,
as a
yeah.
parent sometimes. I don't know. Did you experience that? Like, what has your journey looked like? You are a true COVID mom. First of all,
Yes.
like, I just need to recognize that and be like, okay, I had 3 children and I did not have them in the middle of a global pandemic, and you are a rock
Oh,
star.
thank you.
I
Thank
just
you.
gotta say it. All
It's
the moms out there.
Yeah,
Woo!
I it was a different obviously, it's not the experience that you think that you're gonna have, right? So,
Right.
when I actually the funny thing about it also is that I was a week earlier than when they said you couldn't even have, like, your spouse with you. So, I couldn't even imagine for the moms that gave birth and didn't have any form of support with them, so God bless them, but I was very lucky to have my husband with
Yes.
me. And I mean, the entire birth experience was actually fine, and everybody was wonderful. And granted, I have worked with kids and been around kids pretty much my whole life. I also taught musical theater and did a lot of babysitting and nannying when I moved to New York, right, to make money. So I'd been around kids, but it's so different when it's your own. It's just a
Right.
different thing. And, obviously being in a pandemic, we weren't around anybody except my parents because they live around the corner, so that was our pod, which I was very lucky for. Because if I didn't have my mom, literally don't know what I would have done. Just being also a working parents, right?
Yeah. Shout out to
So
grandmas.
yes,
I have the
shout
same feeling about
out
my mom.
to
Mhm.
grandmas. They are truly the MVPs and the heroes. Um,
Yes.
so I will say that overall, the experience has actually been a blessing because I think were we not in a pandemic, my family as a whole may not have gotten the time that we've spent together. And I've been
Mhm.
very, very grateful for that because for me, someone who does a lot, my husband's also a lawyer, so he works often. I was touring, I was traveling, doing all of these things. So she probably would have been with my parents more or would have been with a nanny at certain times. And I'm so glad that that isn't what our situation was because the last year and a half, we've grown so close and the bond that we have is just, it's incredible. And I don't take it for granted. The hard thing though has been wanting to make sure that she's not, like, socially awkward because she hasn't been around kids really, right? I mean, she's done the FaceTime thing, she's done Zoom, but she's had maybe a couple of interactions with kids as of recent, but, like, the last maybe 14 months was just like, "I'm the only kid in the world," kind of thing, right? Like, that's what she probably thinks. So,
I
I
mean,
think
there
she'll be
could be
fine,
worse
but
things.
right. Right.
Absolutely.
So there could be worse things, but I'm hoping soon that we can get her into more interactions and more, classes and things like that. But all in all, she's honestly really, really awesome. And I think that it is a learn as you go thing. And I've had to give myself grace. We're thinking that I'm messing up or failing. And it's like, I've never done this before. So I shouldn't be so hard on myself. I don't want my husband to be hard on himself either, and you figure it out. You really just gotta figure it out, and it's a fun process, to be honest. It's
Well,
exhausting,
and
but it can be
allow
fun.
absolutely. And allowing yourself what you're saying, that grace of knowing that you're a beginner,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
And we're all beginners, right? And I've been reflecting a lot on, like, how important it is for adults to let themselves be beginners and let themselves be in that place of learning. Um, but I am curious, how do you bring your personal creativity into your role as a mom? Like, how does music interact in your family? What does story time look like? How do you bring that part of your soul into your parenting?
Yeah, music is a huge part. She has her favorite songs and, we dance all the time, and it's also allowing myself and just us as a family to just have fun, and, just bringing any form of the arts into the house, but really music and, like, coloring, those are the main things that we love to do. She loves books too. So we'll act out books and stuff and do things like that. It's really fun to just have that inner kid come out because she really enjoys it, and it gives me a break from real life, honestly, to kind of like make play and have fun and be imaginary, so to speak. But yeah, music is a huge thing for us. Absolutely.
I love how you said it gives you a break also, and I think one of the when I talk to other parents about bringing creativity into the house, one of the things that's hard is it feels like it might be more work.
Mm,
And it's like, and I get that because we're all working really hard. Like
yes.
let's be clear. It doesn't
Yes.
matter what you like everybody right now is just at that max point.
Yes.
But I have the same experience where when I let myself take the time to breathe and jump into my daughter's imaginary conversation with the folk right now, we do a lot of fairies and a lot of unicorns. She's
I love
5,
it.
so like that's our zone right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
But or just like, if I'm cooking dinner, like I have, dinner has to get done, but if I put on one of our favorite songs and it becomes a dance party in the kitchen, like dinner still gets cooked, but it's
Yeah.
just so much more
It's so much
fun.
more fun. Yeah.
And it's just a little bit, it's like you bracket real life for a few moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really special.
Yes.
So has your perspective changed on any of your creative work since having your daughter? Like have those fed each other?
I don't
Yeah.
think it's changed so much as it has made me more passionate about what I'm doing because I want to set the best example for her possible. And I want her to see how much certain things mean to me so that whatever she finds, whatever lane that she ends up, residing in, that she puts just as much emphasis into it. So if she sees, mommy and daddy really care about these things. They put, their best foot forward. They're very passionate about it. I want to make sure I do that too. So it's really just about setting the best example for her in terms of how I do my work and the kind of care and love that I put into it.
Yes. Just thank you. That is such a beautiful way of saying it, of like and that expands to so many things around we are always, their little eyes are always watching us,
Yeah.
and like there's so many things that I'm just more aware, like, okay, am I living the life that I want my kids to see mirrored for them?
Right.
In this moment, and I mean, let's be clear, we all lose our temper, we all have our hard moments, we all like, right, like, I mean, I'm like the first person to say, I mean, this morning I snapped at my kids 3 times because they were gonna miss the bus to go to
Yeah.
school, and I was like, "Ah!"
Right.
But,
Right.
like but catching myself in those moments, talking to them about it, expressing, "Hey, I let myself have a story about you missing the bus, and that was stressful."
Yeah.
And in that story in my head, I feel like I could have handled that better. I could have had a story in my head about, "Hey, we might miss the bus, but let's stay calm about that because maybe it's not the end of the world," right?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
all of those kinds of pieces. And what you're saying is that you're doing that with your work, that you're saying, I want my daughter to see me giving my full heart and passion to what I love to do so that someday she can do the same. And I think that's such a huge gift. I mean,
Yes.
it's really a
Absolutely.
beautiful gift.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of folks listening to this podcast going, that's awesome. She's a musician. She's a story. I mean, she came out of the womb singing. Of course, she's bringing creativity into her home. But I am a believer that we are all creative and we all have this ability. So to the parent who's listening right now being like, "Yeah, I like music. It's cool and I like the idea that creativity and social change might be able to be good, but I don't know what to do about it." What's something they can try? What's something that somebody could just test?
I love this question because I think the day and age that we are in, there are so many options for that to happen. There really is no shortage of ways to bring, different creativity, different arts, social change into your house. So I always say books is a good place to start, to be honest. And fun books, but there's a couple of books that I have. There's one called Woke Baby. It's one of my favorite books. It's so
I love Woke
great.
Baby.
Yes.
Yes.
Woke Baby's great. There's also ones, for us, we have the ABCs of Black History, different things like that where you bring in social change, but it's fun and it's, the graphics are incredible to look at. Also, just you can if you have like a Google or like use Siri, just do any sort of like fun kids playlist. Just have the music playing in the background. We made a playlist. Unfortunately, she now knows how to find it on my phone and press play and be like Cece's playlist. And I'm like, okay,
Wait. 18 months old.
yes. I'm like, so this is what I have to look forward to. Yeah. I was like, okay,
good luck.
Great. Yeah, she knows the Spotify symbol. She clicks it on the phone and she knows how to find her playlist because it has a little logo on it. So it's Sienna's playlist. I know. Thank you. I need all the prayer. But
yeah, 12 is going to be amazing.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I've seen a couple. I know what I have to look forward to. But yeah, creating a fun music playlist. I think that's another great way to just bring creativity and fun into the house, especially with music. Because it's like you don't have to create the music. You're just listening to it and enjoying it because everybody loves music. So I think that's a really good place to start.
Those are terrific. I mean, just, finding a few books. And one of the things I love about some of the books that you mentioned is that they're visually so much fun. And one of the things I know I talk to parents about who have kids in that toddler age range is pointing out not just like the words on the page, but that each page is an opportunity to talk about color, talk about shape, talk about what are the images that we're seeing, and engaging in the incredible art that the illustrator put there as well. Like I always sort of, when I'm talking about kids books and how to read kids books with all ages, like I think of the book and the words on the page as a springboard.
Mm.
And then there's all this other stuff that you have as opportunity for conversation. And then just, the idea of just having music and a playlist that's like, as you said, playing in the background. And I think that's a simple phrase that like could be just like, oh yeah, we can just have music playing. But if you really think about where we started this conversation and what you were talking about your upbringing, that music was always there.
Yeah. Yep.
That's we're in this moment where we have the technology that music can always be there.
100%.
And it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right. And there's this song that I would sing to her when she was in the womb. And then I'd sing to her, every time I put her to sleep. And it's called Home by Shoshana Bean. And I sang that to her pretty much
I love that
the
song.
first night. Do you know that song?
I do.
Oh God.
Beautiful.
I know you're already crying because it makes me cry, right? And I sang it to her like the first 9 months that I was putting her to sleep. And then we started singing some other songs. But in the last 2 weeks, she's been saying home, home. And she's been asking for me to sing that song because she even remembers it. I know. It makes me want to cry. So you never know, even just playing a song or singing a song, at what age it will actually make a difference to them and how it'll impact them. But the fact that she like asks for that song, it makes me, I do cry like every single time. But that's one of my favorite songs to sing to her.
Malynda, would you be willing to sing a tiny phrase from it for us? It would be, if you're not, I totally understand.
Is that something? Because I'm gonna cry. Yeah. Okay. So this song, if you haven't heard it, please look it up. When I heard it the first time, I bawled my eyes out. It's one of the most beautiful songs written by Scott Allen. So the chorus, it says, "So hold me in your arms, 'cause you're mine forever. The way you lay inside my arms, I'll protect you for always. Never feel alone, but I'll always be with you. Home is where the heart is meant to be. You'll always have a home inside of me." Oh, my legs is all about to cry.
No, it's beautiful.
Oh,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Oh, I
Thank you
wasn't prepared
for
to sing
giving
them
us
all. I
that
know
gift.
that
I
song.
totally sprung that on you, but oh my
Oh,
gosh,
it's okay.
thank you.
Of
And
course.
that you have I mean, I knew this already, but you have a stunningly beautiful voice. But
Thank
I
you.
also just want to say to the parents out there who are saying, "Oh, but I can't sing like that," that it's about just opening your mouth and
Yeah.
letting the words and the music come out,
Yeah.
and your kid doesn't care.
Doesn't care at
Your
all. They
kid
don't know
just
what pitch
wants to
is.
hear. They don't. They don't. It's so true. All right. So we've got a 3-question speed round, and then I want you to tell everyone how they can hear all of the things Malynda Hale ever. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
3-question speed round. Number 1, if you could invent one completely crazy thing that doesn't currently exist and would make parenting a little bit easier, what would it be?
Myself again. I would clone me.
Done.
That's
Yes. Yes.
that's it.
Perfect. All right. What is the first creative product, like a song or a specific book, that you can remember feeling inspired by or connected to?
Yeah, there's 2. Like I mentioned before, it was, Whitney Houston singing the national anthem, and then I had
Mhm.
a tape, if you don't know what those are. I had a tape of Mariah Carey. So those were the 2 singers that I grew up with and loved, but yeah, that tape of her singing, I think it was Vision of Love. Yeah. Yep. That was it.
Nice. Oh yeah, the tapes. We had the mixtapes.
Yep. Oh,
Oh, gotta love the tape. Oh
oh
yeah.
yeah, for like birthday presents.
What is the one word or phrase you say most often when you are talking to your daughter?
It's, "Are you serious?" When she throws a temper tantrum, I'm just looking at her and I'm like, "Are you serious? Are you serious? Sienna, really? Really?" So, yeah, it's that.
There it is. There it is. Amazing. All right, Malynda, where can people find you?
Absolutely. So I am very simple on all social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, just at Malynda Hale. And you can go to my website, melindahale.com. There's also links for all of that. So you can also see my podcast there, hashtag We Need to Talk, which is also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But really, just go to melindahale.com and you'll have links for everything. You can find me there.
Listen to her podcast, you guys. It's so, so good.
Oh, thank you.
Malynda, thank you. This has been an absolute delight. I'm so thrilled that we had a chance to connect and
Yes,
talk. Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much. Thank you for having me. It was great.
I'm feeling really inspired from Malynda, and I hope you are too. Wanted to give you a heads up about some upcoming episodes on the podcast. We have Miles Nye, who is a game designer. That is what he does for a living, and that has included in his career designing games for the television show Survivor. So don't miss that. We have Eden Lepucki, who is a New York Times bestselling novelist who also wrote a phenomenal piece for the New York Times that really caught my attention. And we also have Kanika Chatta Gupta coming up, who is a former CNN reporter and once danced with Alvin Ailey. They're all parents. They all have wonderful things to say about imagination and creativity. So tune in.